When I get talking about things that I'm passionate about, the New Yorker comes out in me, so I get talking really quickly. When I do this in my home office, the executives start to glaze over, but I'm hoping to know my audience here, and you guys can keep up with me because I've built in about 45 minutes of content for 35 minutes because I want to leave room at the end for questions. So strap in was my point here. One of the other things about me is that I'm also really big into quotes. You'll see that theme carry forward through the entire presentation today. One of the things that I really like about social media is that although every industry is different, social media may not complete the sale for you, but it'll transition you from a handshake to a hug. There's a couple people here who are at the conference today that I've engaged with on social media for a number of years, but I've never met in real life. Scott Monty being one of them who was just here. I followed him ever since he was with Ford Motor Company. Got an opportunity to actually meet him last night at the Electric Cowboy before we got drinks in, and it was a really meaningful relationship. So Raji and a couple other people mentioned that today. Please take the time in between sessions because a lot of the value of these types of events are actually meeting the people that are sitting next to you and you're engaging with at the after-hours event. So with that being said, my name is Brian Lutz. I am the Director of Digital Strategies for CBL and Associates Properties. I've been with the company for 13 years. I was the kid when I was little. I saw Top Gun and couldn't get past the idea of not being a fighter pilot, and so I went to an aviation school. And then September 11th happened, the towers fell, and all the airlines said, hey kid, don't hold your breath. So I know a little bit about transformation. I'm now underneath the marketing umbrella at CBL and Associates Properties, and I was having a conversation with my VP the other day, like, hey, I don't have a marketing degree. I've got a computer science degree, a business degree, and a pilot's license. And they're like, hey, listen, people listen to you when you're talking, so don't tell anybody else about the whole marketing thing, and we'll just keep it between you and me. My team is in the back. They'll attest that I hold them to unrealistic expectations because part of being in social media, I think, is exceeding expectations, pushing boundaries. I see a lot of heads nodding, so I know that that's true, but you can meet with them. They're all going to be the peanut gallery in the back right there. A little bit about CBL. We are the, I think, fourth, it changes often, largest shopping center developer in the United States. We've got 126 properties in 29 states. 83 of those are regionally enclosed shopping centers. And what we're talking about today is how the shopping center industry has had to transform itself, putting the customer first. Anybody here from the state of Texas? Okay, I had a joke, but I'm going to not. I gave this presentation at South by Southwest not too long ago, and the majority of the audience was from Austin or the outlying areas, and they looked at that slide with like their heads cocked, and I'm like, yes, this is the map of the U.S., and there is a great big world outside of the state of Texas. So, sorry, I had to. It was all right, so here's what we're talking about. We're transforming today's shopping malls. The quote that I enjoyed, that I related to the shopping center industry is, if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. A lot of what people ask me are, what are the challenges today? And as I understood from a presentation that happened just about an hour ago, people are trying to say, as well as the national news media, that Amazon is disrupting the shopping center industry. And that's not actually true, and I'm going to point out a couple of different facts. The largest problem that we have is actually a perception problem. I'm glad that this actually is blown up a little bit because some of these news article headlines are a little daunting. I'm just going to read you a couple of them. American malls are dying faster than you would think, and it's about to get even worse. Are malls over? Mall owners rush to get out of the mall business. That's my favorite one. And why our traditional retail is in trouble. These are over-sensationalized headlines. Being marketers, we do a lot of things to get people to click links to drive traffic to our website. They are new different. I wish I could tell you in the markets that we serve that this would be something like a Milwaukee Journal or an Akron, Citizens Review, but they're not. These are pretty big headlines that have enormous followings. However, here are the facts. Only 8.5% of retail sales occur online. Pure play retailers make up only 3.7% of total sales. A Harvard Business Review study, only 7% of the shopper surveys are online-only shoppers. People want to do both, okay? The biggest threat to is not online shopping per se. We're competing against other experiences. Anything that the customers will spend their time and money on, a zoo, an aquarium, a movie out, a date night. And that's why it's creating that's why creating engaging experience at the shopping center is so important to us, and that's what we're talking about here today. Before I leave this slide, I want to share with you a Bloomingdale's case study. Mall of America, one of the largest shopping centers in the US, Bloomingdale made the decision to close its doors a couple years ago. And after a lot of internal meetings, they said, listen, in the Minneapolis, Minnesota market, we are pretty confident that if we shutter this store, we're going to retain 70% of that marketing share through our e-commerce side, okay? When they made that decision and the store went dark and they laid off all those employees, it was actually exactly the opposite. They only retained less than 30% of that market share. Because once the store left, it's out of sight, out of mind. Retailers need to do both. Not to mention, these guys have physical stores now. Bonobos, this jacket that I bought, was actually bought in a store in New York City. Sonos, Fabletics, and even Amazon are opening brick and mortar locations today. Amazon's bookstores are so popular in the brick and mortar space that they're expanding their footprint right now. They're taking a look at college markets and utilizing the tablet and all of those retailer relationships, or the publication relationships, and disrupting that market. But online apparel sales is not really that much of a concern for us. For retailers, it's online versus in-store is not an either or, it's an and. In order for retailers to meet their full potential, it's got to be a marriage of both. The channels must work together to create a seamless and frictionless experience. We're going to talk about the obstacles, because there are still some obstacles today. Sprinklr is actually giving away the Amazon Echo for people who are doing testimonials in the greenhouse room over at the Westin. Really, really cool. How many people here have an Echo already? Anybody? All right, a few. That's cool. Interacting with that Echo is pretty neat. I've got one. I ask it what the weather is. I check sports scores, and it reads it back to me. It's actually pretty neat. But the scariest thing about it is that every interaction that I have with that tool, it's cataloging that information so that when I get back to Amazon.com, all of those sports teams that I'm asking for updates on are loaded into my suggested queue. All of those weather updates, I've got apparel items, whether it be rain jackets or hiking gear, or all of those things are loaded in there for me. Their AI component to their e-com channel is amazing, and that's how they're winning right now. But the other problem is that physical stores are not leveraging the same kind of data, because they've got that same data without the AI component on their e-com line. I was at that panel at South by Southwest, and there's a couple of retailers up there, and I'm not going to call them out by name, but they were talking about how omnichannel is the key to being or surviving in the future. And as many times as they wanted to say omnichannel, I wanted to just vomit. But because the omnichannel strategy is not the winning strategy. Customer first is the strategy. So at the end of the presentation, I raised my hand and I said, hey, listen, so you've got all this information from e-com. Are you able to pass that information to your store ops team or your sales team? And they said, well, no. And so I asked them, why not? And they're like, well, we just don't have the integration inside of the store to accept all that information. I said, all right, so let's take a step back for a minute. What if I, as a shopping center developer, were able to create all of that information and just hand it to your teams? It doesn't have to come from your team. It can come directly from mine. If I create the infrastructure, are you able to accept it? And the answer was no. I said, okay, is that on your roadmap? They said, well, yeah. I said, okay, is it 6 months, 9 months, a year, 2 years? They couldn't give me an answer. And that's the third bullet here. They don't have the infrastructure, and it's not in play. So right now, CBL is laying fiber optic cable around the entire shopping center right now to provide VoIP and data services to retailers. We're doing a couple of other things too, but in that data strategy with that fiber optic cable, we want to be able to provide a public-facing Wi-Fi experience for those shoppers as well. Amenity adding customer amenities is enhancing the overall shopping experience, but Wi-Fi is generating an enormous amount of business intelligence. And I want to be able to pass that off to a retailer. I'm going to use Haley as an example because she's sitting here in the audience and she works with me on my team. Haley is an Ann Taylor Loft customer. Haley spends an enormous amount of money at Loft, and I'm not going to disclose the amount. But all I want to do is notify Ann Taylor Loft that Haley's at the mall, because I'm hoping that they can catalog her closet and say, hey, Haley, of these last 3 things that you bought, this would pair nicely, and have that fitting room already set up for her before she even walks into the store. That's the guest experience of the future, and the retailers need to get on board. Okay, enough ranting. I'm going to step off my soapbox for a minute. How do we solve these problems? We're going to tackle them one at a time. Perception, okay? Again, when I say mall, people think of a very similar experience to the DMV. right? No one's happy at the DMV. It drives me crazy. Long wait lines, disgruntled employees, people who are just pissed off. But you know who loves the DMV? A new driver. Because the DMV to them represents freedom, a change in perception, right? However, when we start talking about a shopping experience at a traditional, quote, mall, people think Black Friday, crowds, rushing, long wait lines at the register. And there are others that have a perception that trips to the shopping mall represents retail therapy, all right? That's what we want to get to. CBL marketing is no longer in the business of creating those fashion shows at Center Court. It's about creating meaningful experiences offline that you want to share online. So how do we do it? We're marrying marketing technology and innovation to create shareable moments, okay? Social listening. We utilize the listening platform to pick up on keywords around seasonality. So it's almost Mother's Day. May is right around the corner. We're listening for people asking for shopping suggestions for Mother's Day through listening, right? Not only are we doing that, but we're geo-targeting those searches around our shopping centers. So that we could say, hey, listen, here's a couple of great ideas at Cool Springs Galleria that you can get for mom, right? We're inserting ourselves into that conversation. But we're also taking it a step further. We're random acts of kindness. We have marketing directors in some of our properties that are approaching people around keyword search, or we are approaching them for rewarding them for that brick and mortar experience and finding them through social check-in or social media activity. Creating fun and engaging content. I'm going to come to this a little bit later on in the presentation, but we've just changed our content strategy from deal aggregation to creating fun and exciting reasons to shop. So right now on our website, you'll find brunch fashion. You know, what to wear to brunch with the particular audiences that you're with. So you've got the hangover brunch. You've got the brunch with your parents. You've got maybe brunch for a first date, and all the different reasons to find the different outfits at the different retailers to satisfy all those different occasions. We used to be a deal aggregation where our malls were strictly a utility of all the things that were happening at the mall, the events and all of the deals. But then we were competing with Retail Me Not and Coupons.net and all those other deal aggregators. We needed something to differentiate ourselves. When we moved to this new strategy, we saw double-digit increases in time spent on site, website visits, and engagement on our social platforms. All wins for us. Because when we're interacting with the customer on these social channels, we don't have a bottom of the sales funnel like traditional retail do. We are a landlord. And so we've got a customer that is the guests coming through the shopping center and also the retailer that makes up that shopping center as well. So we've got to deal with both audiences. Virtual customer service, I'm not going to get too much into SLAs, but that is how we positioned and that's how we founded our social media footprint. Why we wanted to have a virtual customer experience much like Carlos was explaining with his daughter in his insurance claim earlier this morning. We need to be on the channels that they prefer. So we need to be on Facebook. We need to be on Twitter. We need to be on Snapchat. We need to be on Instagram. And there may not be a direct correlation to a sales increase or a revenue or profitability, but providing that enhanced customer experience, there is indirect data that says that when you're there and you satisfy that customer request, we do see a lift in sales. And finally, Wi-Fi, we talked about it a little bit already, but there's a really cute meme, and I wish I would have included it into this slide. It was more of a Calvin and Hobbes type cartoon where a kid comes back from kindergarten on his first day, and mom asks the kid and says, hey, how was the first day of kindergarten? He goes, well, it sucked. They didn't even have Wi-Fi. We're taking that mentality and we're installing it in a lot of our shopping centers because it's an expectation when you go anywhere today that there's going to be Wi-Fi. And one of the reasons why we've installed it in so many of our properties is to solve a customer pain point. Much like young moms today, I use my sister as the example. She's 35 years old and has 3 kids. When she shops, she can't shop for herself because she's juggling 3 kids. She's in a zone defense right now because she's outnumbered. So what does she do? She hands her iPad to one, a phone to another, and her husband's phone to another. And all of them are on their phone. And they're not so much worried about data, they're worried about where they're going to go once they get online. And because we offer our Wi-Fi with some firewall protection, they know they're not going to get to the adult sites or gambling or anywhere else that they don't need to be. So my sister can have a frictionless and carefree experience inside of our shopping center. But speaking of experiences, I want to give a shout out to American Girl real quick. This is going to transition to the next slide, but has anyone been to an American Girl? It's a slippery slope if you haven't. If you haven't, check it out. The stories that I get about American Girl and some of our properties is that dads can take their daughters and spend about an hour in the store and a good chunk of change and leave with absolutely nothing. They haven't purchased anything to take home. They haven't bought anything material, but what they get back from that experience is the time that they spend together. It's amazing. They can have a meal together. The doll gets her makeup done. The daughter gets her hair cut. It's a wonderful deal. I don't have kids, but watching these experiences really warms the heart. So now that we've dealt with perception a little bit, let's talk about transforming the physical experiences. Department stores are getting savvier to leverage their store assets through a variety of digital channels. I was talking with the SVP of Omnichannel Process Systems. Mobility is, in their opinion, the catalyst to merging the in-store and on-store environment. Once the shopper has downloaded the Macy's app, and more retailers are getting this way, they want to be able to push location-based marketing opportunities to that app while the customer is in store. So they're leveraging their in-store asset and their digital profile on that mobile device so that we can take you from shoes to handbags to makeup. They want to increase the time that you spend in that department store. Kohl's is doing the same thing. I was just at Shop Talk in Las Vegas, which is like a retail innovation conference. All that they were talking about were AI and endless aisle. Kohl's is doing the same thing. Everyone who's been to a Kohl's, you've seen the little life-size kiosks where they may have 10 to 15 SKUs of tennis shoes, but you can go to that kiosk and see the thousands of SKUs that they don't carry in store. The great thing about that, though, is that ships for free and the store gets the credit, so it's a big win for everybody involved. All right, this is Cool Springs Galleria here in Franklin, Tennessee. What I've highlighted in yellow here for you is the Sears location. I-65 runs right down here. It's this little highway right here. When malls were first getting built in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, the first tenants to sign on to a new property were the anchor stores. In many locations, it was the Sears and Roebuck, so they got prime real estate. Unfortunately, for shopping center owners right now, that prime real estate that Sears has is now underperforming. And we're doing everything we can to capture that back. So CBL, being proactive, bought back that location. I'm going to flip this for you really quick because the next slide that I'm going to show you is the pro forma. When we bought back that space, we added 60,000 square feet of small shop, we added restaurant, and we added entertainment. All right? So what happened? We transformed that dated Sears brick building into a reason that people wanted to come to the mall. We added new-to-market retailers like Connor's Steak and Seafood, Kona Grill, American Girl, Rock Creek Outfitters, and the results speak for themselves. An 18% sales increase. We've taken them to a middle market player to the place to shop in Nashville, Tennessee. With also increases in web traffic because now people are coming back to the center and rediscovering the center as well. So same story, different location. Fayette Mall, Lexington, Kentucky. This is a unique opportunity because the Sears building that I've highlighted for you here was actually splitting the mall into two different malls, okay? The reason that it looks like this is because the mall that you see on the left-hand side with Dick's and Sporting Goods, or Dick's Sporting Goods and Dillard's, was an addition that was added on later on. So now, for a number of decades, you had to walk through the Sears building to get from one side to the other. So what did we do? We bought it back. And we were able to add 100,000 square feet of small shop space, a new exterior entrance right at the front of the mall. The main thoroughfare right here is underneath the map. And we added new-to-market retailers like H&M, Altered State, Michael Kors, which also spurred additional redevelopment activity inside of the mall, Victoria's Secret, Coach, New York & Company, Express, Bath & Body Works. So the entire center was revitalized through one box buyback. That middle wing has experienced sales of a 55% increase over the Sears box by itself. But aside from that, the overall sales for the center is now up 27%. And the two marketing directors are sitting in the back of the mall for me that are competing back and forth between #1 in the portfolio every month. Surprise and delight opportunities. So Thanksgiving used to be a time where all the family would come together and they'd sit around they'd sit around the dinner table and they would eat and they'd catch up and they'd get judged about why they don't have a boyfriend yet. But now retail has come into Thursday afternoon where retailers like Macy's, JCPenney, Sears, and a lot of the smaller shops as well wanted to open at 9 p.m. on Thanksgiving Day, then 6 p.m. And now, as early as 3 p.m. last year, it's ridiculous. And so CBL finally took a stance. They looked at social data. They looked at customer reviews. They looked at sales information and said, you know what's enough? We're going to buck the trend. We're going to make the decision to close on Thanksgiving Day. We're going to give the day back to our employees, back to our retailer partners, and back to the guests who shop the stores, because what we're seeing is sales stretching from Friday to Thursday. There's no lift in sales. There's no lift in productivity. Actually, it was the other way. We saw increases in overhead and payroll without any lift in sales. And so in 2016, we made the decision to close. We gave CNBC the exclusive, and this was our team on announcement day. The good-looking bearded guy in the middle is me, but the other guy in the picture is our CEO. With executive buy-in, we were able to make this announcement on CNBC, but also secure public PR from Forbes, Wall Street Journal, and it got cut off. Oh no, from Fortune. 12 million impressions on social reach, 5,000 social mentions, but the most impressive stat was 86.3% in share of voice when people talking about Thanksgiving. All right, this was over a 30-day period. The Make Thanksgiving Yours hashtag, which we incorporated in this release, was trending for a solid, I think it was, 2 days, which was a personal record for CBL. I need to reiterate that the markets that we serve in are your Madison, Wisconsins, your Lexington, Kentuckys. We are not the Coca-Cola of the shopping center industry. We are not Nike. So this was a big deal for us. But it wasn't about the publicity. It was about enhancing the shopping center experience. And so the pictures that were shared using the hashtag Black Friday about recreating that Black Friday experience, waiting in line at 6 a.m. for doorbusters with your mom, with your parents, was an enormous success. We gathered a lot of user-generated content through this process, but we're also using social listening to utilize random acts of kindness as well, so that we can utilize the graphics that you're seeing here for this year's announcement, and yes, we are going to be closed again. So I'm going to use that to transform into the digital experience as well. This is probably one of my favorite quotes. When digital transformation is done right, it's like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. When it's done wrong, all you have is a really fast caterpillar. Sorry. Sorry, I'm going to sidebar for a minute. I was getting super frustrated with the guy who was transitioning too quickly, and I'm hoping I'm not turning into that guy. But give them the right information at the right time through the channel that they prefer. That's what we're doing right now with the core in our listening platform. What we want to do, and I'm going to transition because I see that I'm running quickly on time. We want to build a CRM system with core and listening so that as you are, well, let me back up. How many people here have filled out a form that says, yes, I like this store, yes, I like to shop, yes, I like this brand, yes, my birthday is this day? That should all but go away. With the information that people are putting out there on social media and on the websites, you can utilize a multitude of different tools to gather all that information into a CRM, so you no longer have to advertise, or you no longer have to push people to that information. And Carlos said it best, I think, towards the end of the opening keynote. It's not that you want to, or actually I think it was Charlene, you don't want to roll out the red carpet for these people, but you want to gain the information to understand how to serve them better. That's what we're trying to do. We want to listen closely and respond quickly. Merry Holidays was actually a really fun experience that we did exactly that. It's amazing how far your social media reach can go when you put a 10-foot tall cardboard tree in the middle of the mall and you cut a hole in it. All you have to do is tell people a hashtag to use, and they'll do it. This was actually a really funny case study. We wanted to create an online promotion that reached the same demographic without any ad support and see if we could do it. All right? So we put all of these pieces into place. And then, mid-October of the following year, 73% of our ad budget was cut. So then we had to do it. It wasn't an option. So the 27% of ad support that was left was put towards building these Instagram-type frame displays inside of the mall, and a partnership with Coca-Cola and Hello World, which is a fulfillment agency out of New York City. All we did was take a picture of you and your friends in these sign holders inside the mall, and we're going to reward you with a $1,000 shopping spree. We're going to give one away for a week for 6 weeks. 22.5 million impressions served. That's 10% over what we would have bought online in the same advertising budget in the same market. In addition, Coca-Cola sales within the portfolio were up 1.4%. This is the most impressive stat for me, though. When we were talking with Hello World, they were giving us a projection of what you can expect. They were like, listen, maybe 1,000 or 2,000 entries per week, maybe 10 to 12 posts per day. We beat that by 4 and 7x. If you give people a reason to do something and you tell them how to do it, they're going to do it for you. Wrapping up, this is the last question that I get asked, the future of the shopping center. And I'm an Apple guy. I'm a Steve Jobs fan. So here's my answer. We want to enhance the overall shopping experience by doing these 3 simple things. I launched into removing user friction. We just went through the process of building a new technology stack underneath our website, and we launched it just the other week. We're about to launch our new corporate site this week. It's kind of crazy that I'm here because I should be doing content migration, but happy to be with you folks. Don't take it the wrong way. Deepening the contextual relationship is what I was talking about, building BI. We want to be able to capture intelligence from customer journey, social search, social engagement, email open rates. We want all of that information so we could pass it back to the retailers so that in 2018, I don't have to have you ask for that form, what's your birthday? I should already know. Because the formula is pretty simple. Happy customers equals increase in sales. Anyone heard the term MarTech? Yes, in the back. Thank you so much. Don't leave me hanging out here by myself. Marketing technology needs to be the buzzword of 2017. Please help me get that going. What I want to do, this is a heat map. What we're doing in our properties in Cool Springs is our example. We want to be able to track customer journey, identify areas of high dwell. This is actually a real-time view. Nope, that's a lie. This is a view of the Saturday before Christmas in Cool Springs Galleria. What I did was identified a couple of areas where you'd probably see areas of high dwell. Gray dots represent mobile devices inside of the center. Green dots represent beacons that are broadcasting Wi-Fi signal. Blue dots represent people who have authenticated into the network. This was a week after authentication, right? And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to learn where are people identifying into the network, where are they authenticating into the network, and where are they going. But the areas that I've called out here, at the very top you'll see that there's a soft seating area at the very end of the mall. And we're trying to figure out why are people all the way at the other end of the mall? Well, I'll tell you why. They were looking at Stock Trader. They were looking at ESPN. They're males, 25 to 54, waiting for their wives to come out of the department store. Minority Report is no longer the future. I'm getting information about our shoppers that was never available to me before without customer intercept surveys. Thousands and thousands of dollars spent asking what stores do you visit, how often do you come. But what we're doing right now is authenticating people through social sign-on and Gmail, taking that API, throwing it directly into our CRM, so we could find people like Sam. I'm looking to make sure that he's not here today because he is from Nashville. So Sam authenticated into the network. I know Sam because he lives nearby, he likes Starbucks, and he likes the Apple Store because he was just waiting outside of it. Sam's a Brad advocate. We like Sam. But aside from all the things, I know what Sam likes. I know his brand affinities. I know who his friends are. I can market to Sam. And what I'm going to leave you with is our mission, and I hope it's going to be yours as well, to provide a better customer experience, removing friction, and enabling flexibility. Thanks for your time.